Hello everyone, and welcome to our notes on cross multiplying with trigonometry. First, let's remember what it means to cross multiply. When we have a proportion says that a fraction is equal to another fraction. So two ratios are equal to each other. And so what we do when we cross multiply to solve a proportion is we do x times 2, that is a cross product, and we set that equal to 1 times 12. So x times 2 is going to give me 2x, and then 1 times 12 is going to give me 12. And so this is 2 times x. So to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. And when you do 12 divided by 2, you're going to get 6. So the solution, or the answer to this solving this equation is going to be 6, meaning that if you put a 6 over 12, that is going to be the same ratio as 1 over 2. And so the next few problems, we're going to start cross multiplying when there is trig or trigonometry involved. So remember we did sine, cosine, and tangent. So that is getting back into this. So solve the following proportions by cross multiplying, and we want to round our answer to the nearest tenth. So the nearest tenth is going to be 1 after the decimal place. And so when we look at this first one, we want to turn this into a fraction by putting it over 1. And so when we cross multiply, that is going to be 15, I'm going to put that number out front, 15 times the sine of 68 degrees. And we set that equal to 1 times x. 15 times the sine of 68, we're going to type that into our calculator in a minute. And that is going to be equal to 1 times x, which is just x. And so now x is by itself. And I'm going to type this into my calculator. Okay, so let's pull up a picture of a calculator. You can use your cell phones if you need to for this. And we're going to type in 15 times the sine of 68. So let's see, here it is. So make it a little bit smaller. And so we're going to type in 15 times the sine of 68. So 15 times the sine of 68. And so you do 15 times the sine of 68, and then you click enter. And when you do that, 15 times the sine of 68, you're going to get 13.9077, and it keeps going. So when we round that to our nearest tenth, that's going to be about 13.9. So x is going to be about 13.9. Okay, let's do this again. So now we're going to be using tangent. It's our tangent button. Remember that tangent button is right here. And so now we're going to be using tangent of 37 over 1, and we're going to cross multiply. So when I cross multiply, that's going to be 16 times the tangent of 37 is equal to 1 times x. So what is 1 times x? 1 times x is just x. And then I'm going to type into my calculator 16 times the tangent of 37. When I type that in, 16 times the tangent of 37, so let's go back over here. That would be, see, 16, so 16 times the tangent of 37. Looks like this. 16 times the tangent of 37 degrees. You click enter, and that is going to give me 12.0568 ... And so when I round that to the nearest tenth, that's going to be about, look at this, this tells it to round up, so that's going to be about 12.1. About 12.1. Okay? All right, let's do another sine problem. This is going to be the sine of 24 over 1, and then we're going to cross multiply. So that's going to be 10 times the sine of 24 equals 1 times x. Well, 1 times x is just x, and then I'm just going to type this in on my calculator. 10 times the sine of 24. When you do that, 10 times the sine of 24 is going to give me 4.067 in my calculator. So since I want to round it to here, the 6 behind it is going to tell me to round that up to about 4.1. So x is about 4.1. So we're finding the side lengths of triangles when we do this. Okay, let's look at a cosine problem. So this is going to be cosine of 48 over 1. This time, I'm going to cross multiply. So that's going to be 19 times the cosine of 48 equals 1 times x. 1 times x is just x, and then this is going to be 19 times the cosine of 48. I'm just going to type that into my calculator. So if I wanted to do that on my iPad, we'd do 19 times the cosine of 48, and that's going to give me 12.71. So 19 times the cosine of 48, 12.71348,152. And so when I write that out, 12.71 ... that is going to give me, that 1 is going to tell it to stay on that same level. So that's going to be about 12.7. 12.7. Okay, so that's what that side length would be in that right triangle. Okay, so everyone we've done so far, 1 has been multiplied by x on one side by itself. So let's look at some examples where it might not be that way. So when I put this one over 1 and I cross multiply, now x is going to be times the sine of 21. And that's going to be equal to 1 times 20. Okay, so then x times the sine of 21 equals 1 times 20 is 20. And then to get x by itself, we're going to divide by the sine of 21 on both sides. So it cancels out of this side and it moves to the other side. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 20 divided by the sine of 21. So that is going to be 20 divided by the sine of 21, and then I click enter. So divided by the sine of 21, and then I click enter. So when I do that, 20 divided by the sine of 21, that's going to be 55.80 when I cross multiply. So x is going to be equal to 55.80 ... So when I round that to the nearest tenth, it's going to be about 55.8. Okay, so if you did that in your phone calculator, that would be 20 divided by the sine of 21. 55.8 is what that would round to. Okay, so let's do that again. This is the tangent of 32, so I'm going to put that over 1. I'm going to cross multiply. So when I cross multiply, that's going to be x times the tangent of 32 equals 1 times 17. So then we get x tangent of 32 equals 17. 1 times 17 is 17. And then we divide both sides by the tangent of 32. Cross that out. And so x is going to be equal to 17 divided by the tangent of 32. So 17 divided by the tangent of 32. Type that in on your calculator. You're going to get 27.2 when you type that in. That would be 17 divided by the tangent of 32. So that would be 17 divided by, so 17 divided by the tangent of 32. And that gives me 27.1. Okay, so let me know if you need help with your calculator. If you're doing this on your phone calculator, I can help you type it in as well. So when I cross multiply this one, that is going to be x times the sine of 24.5 degrees. That is going to be equal to 1 times 14. 1 times 14 is just 14. So how do I get x by itself on one side? I'm going to divide by the sine of 24.5. Divide by the sine of 24.5. When I do that, x is going to be by itself. X is going to be equal to 14 divided by the sine of 24.5. That is going to give me 33.75. So the 7 is going to round up to an 8 because of that 5. So x is going to be about 33.8. All right, last one. On this last problem, we're going to put the tangent of 58 over 1 to turn that into a ratio as well. And I'm going to cross multiply. That is going to be 13.1 times the tangent of 58. That is equal to 1 times x. 1 times x is just x, that's going to be equal to 13.1 times the tangent of 58 degrees. So I'm just going to type that in my calculator, 13.1 times the tangent of 58, and that is going to give me about 20.96. So that 6 is going to tell this 9 to round up, so that's going to be about 21.0. Okay. So that is what we are doing now. We're cross multiplying with some trig. And you're going to do some practice problems on the back before we actually get into finding side lengths with trig. Y'all have chosen sine, cosine, or tangent based on the triangle. You've labeled opposite and adjacent and hypotenuse. You've learned how to cross multiply, and this will allow us to start solving for missing pieces in right triangles. And so we're going to practice this first, and then our next lesson will be on actually using and picking trig and then setting it up and cross multiplying to solve a side length. Have a good day.